And welcome to the Now Debate. I am here with a delicious cup of tea and with my good friend from Pontypridd, Mr. Richard Oliver. How the devil are you, sir?
I am okay, Jazzy. I am okay. I'm getting there. It's 23 days in isolation. I went up the shop earlier. Amazing. Brilliant hours. That was a real eye-opener. That was going up the shop. So it was the first time I sort of went to the local shop.
Why? What?
20 days. I was in the shop and the girl went, "Get out," she said. "There's too many in here." So out I went. I was talking to these boys outside, and typical, Vardy's boys, funny as hell, all waiting to buy cans and get absolutely off their nuts. And we were having a little chat about all this malarkey that's going on, which was quite a funny conversation. We went into details because it's like the Vardy kind of boys mentality of like sticking stuff up your nose and drinking yourself into a coma. And so I went in the shop, and this boy sort of beat me to it, and he bought his cans, and the woman behind the counter was having a bit of a rant about it, and she was saying, "I'm trying to keep everyone safe." Pulled out the carry bag and licked a finger to open it, which was just the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And then I walked down the road, and there's a couple of these boys, and the one boy was coughing like how he was still on his feet, I don't know, but he was just bent over, just coughing into the air, just coughing and coughing. And this woman walked past me and said, "Oh, it's awful in this." She said, "People just can't cough into their hands." I said, "Well, the thing is," I said, "this is all brand new to everyone." And I said, it's like anything. You can't expect people just to automatically take to it. And I mentioned what happened at the shop, and she kind of just looked at me and went, "Well, fuck it all." And off she went. And I was just walking down back to the house thinking, wow, what a world.
Well, this is it, but right, it's like I've been talking to some friends from way back when, and I'm now hearing. How are you doing with it, actually? Because obviously you went down with it a few weeks back.
It's still there. Obviously, I had a conversation with a doctor, which was kind of terrifying last weekend, because basically he said they're not treating asthmatics in the way they would normally treat asthmatics if they're suspected of having COVID-19. So that will be no steroids, no antibiotics, because you can be prone to secondary infections if you've got asthma, and no Ventolin or nebulizers. Kind of, got to be honest, frightened the sweet Jesus out of me. Couldn't get my head around it. I told him that the steroids basically saved my life, and he just seemed really disinterested. He said, "Look, we've been advised to do this." I was like, who would advise to do that? I don't know. The more and more this is going on, the more there's sort of like weaknesses and there's sort of holes becoming apparent in this whole sort of debauchery.
But yet people are going down, but I know people who've gone down and they are in hospital, like.
Well, yeah, but they could just have the flu, right? They could have just the coronavirus, which is rampant on planet Earth, which thousands of people daily catch the coronavirus, and it affects you in different ways depending on your blood type, your immunity, just you in general, how healthy you are, what you eat, your diet. There's quite a few things that sort of amount to that. And yeah, I believe there is a virus. I'm not saying there isn't this, whatever's happened. But I mean, when you've got people like Simon Park saying it's coming, this in the media now, that China is saying the Americans did it, and the Americans are saying China did it, and then you got 5G, which they're completely blatantly lying about, like they did with fracking, and it's all, and the government have said the statistics are wrong, and they've said this, and how long it lasts on things, and it's just all. It does kind of put you in a frame where you think it does seem like there's something else. There's more to it. It's just more to it than there being quite a bad virus hanging over the world.
I can understand there being more to it, and I do think that I think a lot of it. I don't think they're being as upfront with the symptoms or the effects or the expected effects of it.
No.
You have I don't know if anyone caught the slip last week with Michael Gove doing the press conference, and a lady from Sky News asked him about what the Prime Minister was the day after Boris Johnson announced that he went down with the virus. Michael Gove took the press conference after the lady from Sky News specifically. You can look this up for yourself, and it's she asks because she has some technical issues asking the question. And he starts reading off a spiel, and in there he says about reinfection, to slow down reinfection. I've had it for 23. I've had it, and I've gone up and down over 23 days. I have woke up, I can't speak, I can't breathe. The next day, I'm fine. I take some vitamin C. I've been having CBD oil. I've been taking this thing called Bronco Stop, which is a herbal form of medicine, which has been amazing, absolutely amazing, and it just keeps coming back. But the doctor on the phone told me that this lasts for months. He said the 7 days is absolute nonsense. So why, if it's nonsense, why are the health authorities saying that's the case? There's a couple of doctors now that have said what they are saying is nonsense. It doesn't, I don't know, it just kind of, it puts you in a frame. You can't help it. I can't be the only one who feels like it. No. It does sort of put you in a frame of mind.
It just seems to be, I've had people phoning me and going, flapping and going, mate, have you heard this, have you heard that, have you heard this? And I've just said, well, you can't actually do anything about it until it occurs, right? No. So if they start on about now vaccinating us, which I don't understand it being a virus.
But you hear me out a second, Rich, right? And this is the point that's going to be highlighted in this session. By us conjecturing and by us sort of saying, if you've got a family or a household where someone has literally been taken away, is in intensive care, right, and they don't know whether that person is going to live or die, is all this sort of conspiracy theorising then actually helping at the moment? I understand there's a time for it, and I understand that the truth needs to come out, but are we actually, making things worse?
Well, I think obviously the truth has to come out, right? That's the only way I can say. The truth has to come out. Because the fact that the person you love is in intensive care is to a fault of some sort of system or is purposefully done. Now, in my heart, I'm more drawn to this has been purposefully done, right? I've said this at the beginning. I said this weeks and weeks ago that I feel this has been purposefully done, right? I don't think it came from a market and just randomly appeared in a bat, right? I just think that's absolutely insane. Because there's one thing I like to do. I like to look at the odds and the maths and different things like that. I look at the sequence of things. It just fascinates my mind. So, if that was my loved one, I'd want to know the truth. And some of the stuff, but the media are not helping at all.
No,
right?
Absolutely not.
Given, right? They're not helping at all. Things like Facebook not helping because there's so many controversial stories. This is the problem. But when you find out things like organizations like Cambridge Analytica actually got people in power, and then you find out they are the orchestrators of things like Brexit, then yeah, unfortunately, it needs to be brought to public attention and it needs to be questioned, whatever is going on in the world. Yeah, it's not going to help. People, there was that woman on the radio talking about it the other day. She said she went shopping, she went to the beach, she went here, she went there, and the radio presenter just hung up on her. He said, I can't listen to that. And if it is a virus, which I think it is, socialize, isolating yourself and distancing and washing your hands and all that is just common sense, right? It's just what you would do regardless. If it fell from the sky on a meteorite, if they brought it back to Earth from Mars, or if it would be what you would do to combat it anyway, right? So I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is when there's controversy and people are going, it's 5G doing it, 5G this, 5G that. Then people go, oh, but it's not a virus, I'm just going to do what I please. That can cause harm. Because that's not how we would treat a virus anyway. It's not how we should really deal with 5G, if that's the case, because you don't want to be going near the shit. So, it's just being level-headed. But I think the truth needs to be there and it needs to come out. It does. Otherwise, we'll just accept our fate. If too many people are blindsided by nonsense, then the truth will get lost in amongst all that anarchy, if you like. It just gets lost.
Yeah.
Why are they not why are they putting 5G up when credible people are saying it's dangerous? And there's people saying, they've been on about this chip. They were talking about the chip in, before 9/11. They were talking about chipping people.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense that they would put the antenna to monitor the chip before they give you the chip. They wouldn't do it the other way around. And, it's kind of these little things that make you think, oh, yeah, this, and more needs to be done. More people need to say, wait there, I need to look at it, I need to know what's going on. But as a virus in general, yeah, just, you just follow the protocol. Whether anybody tells you or not, you just use your common sense and just follow the protocol.
So I'm looking for a comment now. I think it was one dominant. If you are listening to us on the chat, I believe that is. If that is you, if you could let us know who mentioned about the CE5. I'm trying to get it up on my screen now, but I am having some difficulty doing that. So dominant, if that is you. And hi to Gina as well, and hi to everyone else who's watching and chatting. Am I right? And hello to Suzanne as well. I know one dominant said he's at risk group and he's been making masks. Yeah, well, we've been wearing personal protective gear around here when going up, and people are laughing at us, to be honest with you, and that's not good. Especially if we're starting to see this go a certain way, and
it just kind of shows the distrust that people feel about the powers that be. It just goes to show the distrust and why we continue to put these people in power when there is so much distrust. Is beyond. That's something that needs debating on and questioning.
Well, we were asked the other day to do a session, and this was to do with the CE5 meditation. Is that right, Rich? Do you want to explain a little bit about that, because you know a lot more about it than I do?
Well, basically, the CE5 meditation, I kind of looked at it. I know there's been quite a few celebrities and different academic types that have done this meditation. And basically, it's a certain type of form of meditation, and that sort of summons extraterrestrials, and they will appear according to sources. And I don't know how old it is or where it stems from. As far as I know, it's pretty old. And basically, it's a form of extraterrestrial communication. Sorry. And yeah, we were asked about it because people have been doing it, and they sort of like, well, the one question was the person wanted to know more and wanted to know their purpose and what was in store for them and what these beings, like the Council of 12, are going to do for us, is basically what we asked in that sense. But yeah, I've never tried it. I've always wanted to try it, and I've got an idea of where to try it as well, which I won't talk about online because I don't want to. But when it happens, we will let you know after the fact.
Right, so we're going to show this session to you guys now. And what we're going to do is we're going to break each response down afterwards and discuss it. It might be advantageous for you guys to listen using earphones because not all of it is incredibly audible. Again, it's like you know the score with these devices now. Sometimes they're easier, sometimes it's easier than others to hear. This is my interpretation of it. Now, the way it is structured, I believe some of it doesn't read entirely like 100% accurate. And I believe that is because it's referring to past sessions that we haven't gone through yet, for a start. And B, I think, like what Richard has said about where it's talked about things to come, it's written in a code. So it would be interesting to hear what your interpretation of this code is. So we're going to, unless there's anything you want to add, Rich, we're going to go to the session and come back in about 10 minutes' time.
Right, you'll go for it.
See you guys in a little while. Finally managed to get the SCD2 running. Alright, bruv. I'm sure I just said it right, bruv.
Suffered a sprained
Hello, Jonathan. How are you? How are you?
Making more work.
You're making more work. Am I making more work or are you making more work?
This is several times. Thank you, listeners. That was one wild hour. We can see. Oh. He saw.
Wow.
Oh, people are on the cannon. Oh.
You have an energy coming through, my friend. So someone on our channel's asked about the meditation, apparently where you're supposed to be to meet with aliens. With aliens. Isn't about that?
Lunatic. Yeah. Yes, all as before. They have viewing or sharing.
So what's the solutions to this problem then? Because a lot of people are feeling defeated right now. We don't know who to believe.
So what?
Do we believe what we're being told by the authorities?
I didn't discourage the trial. Story and hardly the act. Because of
your job.
What's our job? What do you want us to do?
in Catholic Church.
Catholic Church. What do you think there was? What do you think?
Melon's tailor shop had With the drama of an actual
And the thunder and lightning will stop.
And the thunder and lightning will start. They don't look human.
In my Silver. It's just one of these things that increase nuclear. Wait, tomorrow? No. And I wonder what you believe.
I believe there's a setup. I believe there's something.
I
believe there's something more sinister behind this.
However, that it was possible.
If it was possible.
Jones. But I hear them as publicist. Some environmental. Very.
Did you speak on the video earlier?
And say it's because we've reached that. I don't know where it's going.
I don't know if these are responses or radio. It's you.
Mold.
Mold. What's coming? I've got a sense of something coming.
A good topic. Yep.
I understand. If the
What are you doing out here? $400. The radio station's all twisted. Euthanasia.
maybe do some good.
Can we do some good?
You know,
Lots of things. I have a large film. You know, he's
from Reuters. What? Because that's treacherous.
That's absolutely not. The gorilla is a
So the Council of 12. Is there anything they can do to help in this crisis?
US dollars. That's to say. Frederick Pohl.
Yeah, it was water.
Written by Robert Scheck.
Is that better?
Large. For me, won't feel at the back of nothing. Oh man, we don't mind. I do. Give me. This is not your fault.
You've added who you are, please.
Gee, Mrs. McKinley said it. Filming is not now in. I hope 50 years, 100 years. About this. It is a problem. Please, nothing that I've done. Five. There, I mean, you never know. Or at least not a whoop. Why not? Only.
A small but will show them.
He heard dogs dying of those kids.
Yeah.
Hello. You might hear a little bit of the responses. There's a bit there where it says at the end about healing the world through storms. I missed that out. Heal the world. So we can rest that later. Right, okay. Richard, are you back with us?
I am.
Right, well, what did you think of that?
Well, I think some of it, like you hear the radio voices, and then some of the voices kind of sound like they're just not part of the program. They just sound a little bit different to me. And I'm just curious, if you just took them voices and put that sort of into a sentence, what would they say? That's why I was just having that thought. It did sound to me like you said, God put them in books, put these things in books.
Well, that would make sense, actually, didn't it? You know, you look at the Dean Koontz one, for example.
Yeah.
So, like that, you know, it was inspired, and they've basically said that with Frederick Poole. It is. Well, I suppose, yeah, you could look at the difference in tone, and I had a feeling there may be a little bit of radio interference in there somewhere. But that being said, you know, there's certain ones, like for example, the obvious one when it said written by Michael Shack, and then it says relationships. I didn't actually realise that book existed and what that book was about until after. So, I don't know. I think...
Well, I did some research because you asked me to look into McKinley and everything, didn't you? Because you sent me them things earlier.
Yes.
Mrs. McKinley, which was the first lady, if you like, she actually had epilepsy, because she was addicted to, I think they call it barbiturates.
Right.
And she died not shortly after her husband, William McKinley, who was assassinated by Leon, I've got to say this right, Gogetz. Right, I don't know if I'm saying that right, it's the weirdest name in the world, in 1901. And he was an anarchist. And he saw William McKinley as the symbol of oppression. So he assassinated him. He was Polish, and he had, because it was just after this, they went to war with the Spanish. They took back Puerto Rico and a couple of places.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of controversy, but William McKinley passed his presidency on to, I believe it was Roosevelt. If I'm making this, Woodrow Wilson. Right, I got this wrong. Woodrow Wilson.
Right.
And in 1913, Woodrow Wilson basically signed the Federal Reserve Law. Right. And he did it on December the 23rd, so there was no one to really oppose it. And he was the one that wrote the famous line, "I am very unhappy as I believe I have given over our country to the capitalist elite." And yeah, it's kind of, so I did as much research as I could on these different things, because they give us
with
stuff
about
sometimes.
3 hours notice.
Yeah.
I did only give about 3 hours notice.
Yeah. So I was looking into it because I was like, let's have a look at this then. So I was, because the Federal Reserve Law basically is kind of a big deal, because you have a Rockefeller and a Rothschild on the committee for the Federal Reserve at the time, and basically it gave them the license to basically print money. And then in 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt passed the banking law, and he did that on March 9th. And basically that was because he'd created a bank holiday that lasted a week. And when that law was passed within that week, to give the Federal Reserve sort of the powers to over the banks, the other banks that were in America. And there was 12 Federal Reserve nations within America, and there were 7 heads of the Federal Reserve, one of them being Rothschild. And they were at the ump about it because they didn't have enough bankers within the Federal Reserve family. But it allowed them to print money in the case of any sort of outcomes like that again, because there was a big financial crash, and people were doing a run on the banks and taking their money out of it and hiding under mattresses. Well, Roosevelt said it's no good there; it needs to be in the bank. So when they passed this law, basically people started putting their money in the banks, and the stock market just exploded. It was like literally a couple of days after this bank holiday, it had the biggest influx I think it's ever had. As far as I was reading, trying to make sense of it, because it's all politics and it's in that language, and it's, you know what it's like. But that law that was passed basically giving them the right to print money, to use any bank's capital to possess that money, and the bank who owned it. It gave them the right to back up the banks if there was a run, but they would have to give this. And in 2008, I found this very interesting. In 2008, 2009, the Federal Reserve, instead of bailing out the banks, they give them loans, which have to be paid back. And it's kind of, I don't know what it's relevant to, but after reading this, it does sort of give you a view of that monetary system and how it's been manipulated. So,
Well, I've got a theory, and in order to bring this theory across, and I want to bring some people in on the chat here because there's a lot of good activity. And I'm going to do this in a way that, because there's a few things that have been mentioned. And first of all, one dominant has basically said that he can take a personal reference to Frederick Pohl because he is a science fiction writer, which he is. And basically, so is one dominant. So
excellent.
I want to what I think a lot of this is, and this is why I'm not going to mess with this, right? This is the responses we come up with, right?
Yeah.
And
we've said this many times. We don't, anything you will ever see on the show from me and Jazzy is what you see is what you get.
Now, what you could do,
we don't mess with it. You get it as we get it.
What I will do is I will put this message up in a video tomorrow. And Rich, what you could do perhaps is go back, if I put the responses underneath, like what I've done before, and perhaps you could have a look at the different voices and seeing if you could find something from it, because you might find there's something personal, you know, that's a way that you will translate it, maybe get the same thing or get something different, like you suggested. That would be
I was
something...
listening to it then, and I was just, it gives, you know, it sort of sparks something in me. The responses, there's always something I find in them that relates, which is the one thing that gives them validity.
Yeah.
And it's always something relates to the situation or something, which always, you know, like I said, it's like my old spiritual teacher used to say, Gwen, she used to say, the puzzle, if that's the piece that fits in there, it's the piece.
Yeah.
That's what makes up the puzzle. You know what I mean? And it does fit. That's the thing. These responses we get fit within the situations that's happening. So,
right. Okay. So it says, "Hello, brother." A lot of the time, my brother Will comes through on these responses. I don't know if they're all him, if he's relaying the message, or if it's actually coming from him. I don't know. I believe it was because I can see him whilst I'm doing it psychically. I can see him now as I'm looking through it. I can sense him. But that's by the by. It doesn't really matter who the messages come from. Hi, brother. The time of suffer the spring drew together all of us. Now, if you think about it, we're going into spring with this lockdown, right?
Yeah.
And all of us, every single one of us on planet Earth, who is being affected by this virus, are all going to be affected in one way, shape, or form. If that means staying in your house, it's a global phenomena. So whether it means there being lack of food, being lack of materials, there is going to be some form of endurance one way or another. And I believe it's near enough half of the world now is on lockdown. And there is even articles about the virus re-springing up in China in the mainstream press today. Okay? Again, I'm not, I can't comment on the validity of these. They are in the tabloid side of the UK press. So you take them with a pinch of salt. But then I don't really believe a lot of the mainstream media either. So it's a case of looking at all of it and making your own decisions. Who got the plague virus? Stop making more work overtly with medicines that sever all pain. Hey, thank you for listening. You to stay or as alone. That was one wild owl we can see. This bit I am not entirely sure of. Making more work overtly with medicines that to sever all pain. Now, is it the fact that there's medicines there that can help this, and these medicines are being suppressed? I don't know. I'm not too sure how I would interpret that.
Well, I thought when it said making more work overtly, I thought that was with the virus concern was just people basically just carrying on with their normal day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
And that is kind of spread. That is making work for the NHS in regards to is putting more people in the line of fire.
Yeah, That's a good point, actually. Stop making... Well, actually, that makes sense. Those who got the plague virus, stop making more work overtly.
Yeah.
If you think about it, that actually makes sense, because you can carry that virus up until 14 days before you show symptoms. That's if you're not even, if you could be asymptomatic. So you could be walking around and passing this virus on like bloody Happy Christmas.
Well, it just makes, if you can put all the conspiracy malarkey out there and just think of it as a virus, it makes more sense not to put too much strain on the NHS.
That's my point.
Because them poor people, in regards to this, are witnessing it's something they have to live with forever.
Yeah.
And it is very cruel, and it's not fair.
Well,
I wouldn't like to be put. If people were putting me in that position, I'd be very, very unhappy.
So if you say with medicines to sever all pain, what's the best medicine? Not getting it in the first place, not spreading it, not causing someone else to suffer it, even though you were not. Hey, thank you for listening. You who there to stay lonely. Well, there are people. Okay, it's okay. Prince Charles coming out and talking about his experience self-isolating in Balmoral, but there's one thing to self-isolating in Balmoral and another thing to self-isolating in a council flat in Islington. There are people that have.
Yes. I mean, I've had a few rants about this.
There are people that are, lonely. Older people that are lonely, but have chosen to self-isolate. They've chosen that rather than to, to stay with. They've chosen that. They've chosen that. For others, they've thought of others before themselves. That was one wild owl. Now I can't remember the symbolism of the owl. I know there's a connection to ETs, but isn't the owl something to do with transformation, or it's to do with? I know it's a lot to do with awakening as well. The owl.
The owl is, it's been used in sort of all kinds of symbolism. I know that it's used in Illuminati symbolism and in Masonry. It's used in with an ET. It has a very big, strong ET connection. It's used. There's quite a few references to the owl with the Watchers.
What's the Watchers?
The Watchers are basically beings that just observe and just sort of. There's different references. There's the tall men. There's different things. There's different references.
Oh, like the Hat Man and stuff like that.
Yeah, kind of like that. But there's Watchers in the sense of just the beings that observe life in the universe.
Well, the spiritual meaning of owl is the connection with deep wisdom and good judgment.
Yeah.
It also has something to do with change and transformation. I was getting transformation, but I wanted to double check that. Now, this is the thing, if you are having to spend lots of time doing nothing or at a very slowed pace, 90% of people out there are used to living life at 90 miles an hour. What a time where reflection can set in, where we can really start to, have to look inwards. We can see a hell of an Easter. Now, I don't know, obviously this is going to be happening over Easter, over the springtime, which is quite interesting. It's falling on this sort of time of year if you look at the symbolism of Easter. Okay? Yeah. Easter symbolism with rebirth, resurrection. The road people are on, they cannot no more go through that. Well, we've talked, and I don't want to go into it now, but how many times have we talked on this channel about the amount of suffering that's in the world?
Too much.
Yeah. These lunatic men that chance all as before, and I didn't understand the word, viewing all in shared links. You've got these people, whether it's the bankers, whether it's governments, whether it's corporations, whether it's that, who are basically have drawn this world so we're all living on a knife edge. You know, we no longer stockpile food. We're showing, it's bringing out what I believe is happening with this virus. It's bringing
Well,
out.
I'm not too sure about the stockpiling of food because I remember Jesse Ventura doing his show with the tunnels in America. And I
They
remember
might be
watching
stockpiling
that,
food for themselves, but not for us.
no, not for us, but they definitely stockpiling. I mean, that lorry driver drove for 130 odd miles underground, backed up to some doors, unloaded his cargo, and drove off. He filmed it. I mean, if that doesn't make people go, hang about what?
Yeah.
I don't know what will. So.
What do you think of my translation so far?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What you try to, like, some of it, like I've said before, I don't hear some of it, but that's because I'm just listening to it through the telly most of the time. I listen to it from my earphones if you send it to me, or I catch it on the YouTube. But I mean, some of it's, like I said, some of it's crystal clear, and then some of it I'm like, I didn't catch what it said. But it's, what you've interpreted so far, this seems to flow for me.
Well, okay. So essentially, these people are. I'm getting a lot of help here, by the way. I'm actually seeing this as I'm talking about it. That's why if I cut you off, it's because of that. But I feel a bit like I'm kind of channeling here. All right, this is what I do when I actually go through it. I'm having a bit of help here. Okay. So far, I didn't discourage a trial, brother. This is going to be a trial. And Jonathan has said this to me, the Council's 12 said this to you. It's going to be hard. For us, the transition that's going to help to sort this world out, it's not going to be easy. And like you have said, and I showed you this before, and you were like, well, they're not going to come down and help us. But you know yourself, my friend, okay? If aliens came down tomorrow and said, right, you load of idiots, either you sort this out or we're going to wipe you out. Then,
but they don't. I mean, they don't necessarily have to say we'll wipe you out, and it does say I didn't discourage a trial, which I personally, to me, my interpretation is a trial was needed.
yes,
they saw that we would feel lost.
I agree as well. That's what I agree.
Right. Yeah, it was needed. It was necessary. Reflection in the light of the way the world has just been blatantly going about this business is needed.
Yeah.
Reflection is important.
It's a time out, isn't it? I like the way Steve Huff has put it.
Yeah. But I do think, as we see it, right, these people have their finger on some really scary buttons. Right? And they do. There's no getting out of it. And they have the might of the military on their side, because these young men and women will just blindly go to war without questioning the course. I mean, it happened in 9/11. I mean, thousands of men went AWOL, and women went AWOL after 9/11 because they thought, hang about, this is something wrong here. And some of the stories that came out after that went on, some of the atrocities were unbelievable. And it is a scary thought to stand against that, right? Just to stand against it is quite a fearful place to be. And we talked about this on the Sunday service. It's caused me fear in standing up, because there's people I love, and I don't want to see them hurt.
No.
And it does create that apprehension, standing what's right, and they could come down and say, they don't have to say we'll wipe you out or anything like that. They just have to say, they just have to come down and say, look, we've watched you, and I've got to be honest.
But then let's be honest though, Rich, right? We've seen UFO. There's video footage at the wazoo on YouTube of UFOs. They're quite clearly, we've showed them ourselves.
Yes.
And that's the thing, but, even if they did, people wouldn't be listening. It's a bit like a mutual friend of ours said, I know the reason why an alien doesn't land on the White House lawn where we live. If someone comes up here with a different colour skin, people are already, up in arms.
Yeah. But this is the thing. If they came down, right, this is a problem, because of things like religion and stuff like that, right, where, the Bible says only made us, right, and different religions state this, that we are the centre of the universe, which is absolutely bonkers. But if they come down and said, look, it was us that influenced Jesus, that doesn't alter the fact of what that man said, in part, was completely spiritual.
Absolutely.
And there was absolute truth in it. Of just saying, if you're good people and you take care of each other and the planet, you'll all have a good life. That's all he was saying. Didn't say nothing else. He didn't. There was all this malarkey about the rest of it. It's just one man interpreted it that was just used it to gain power. The actual real message is just quite simple.
So it's saying, I didn't discourage a trial here, restoring an art to the earth. And brother, your job, be one who's aware of this. And I think that's, well, this is what I'm seeing in the alternative press, right? I know what you said about the truth coming out in this, but everyone's being so negative about it. There's no love in it. I literally, you guys know, following the channel for some time, know I've been a big supporter of David Icke. I literally had to get rid of him off my social media yesterday because he's so goddamn negative and does not engage with his audience. When I turned around and said, I've got NHS workers who are part of my family and they are seeing this firsthand, and you're coming on your live stream and just saying this is nothing more than the flu. Now, at the end of the day, it felt more like I think you have to be level-headed, like you said, Rich. You have to not advocate for one side or the other until no one's advocating for the side of love in this. For the side of people who just want to help. There's a side of people who don't understand the great scheme of things. They just want to do good. They just want to be a good person.
Well, I had the same problem. I mean, the thing is, right, with that the problem is, I think it's scary, and it could be the truth. What David Icke is saying, it could be the truth. It could be just a normal virus, and we never noticed it because we weren't presented with it. Now, it could be truth in it, right? But it doesn't help. I think it doesn't help, right? And it doesn't help the situation we're in. And I had the same problem. Is it McElroy, the actor?
James McAvoy. Well, can you hold that thought a second? Sorry, but we're actually going to come to a point where it talks about this now. So right, can I get a few more? Because I know we're running a bit short of time, so I'm trying to sort of like get through this quite quickly, so we can discuss it. We're not going back on each other because there's something I want to ask you. Because I wonder whether you knew about this. Because this sounds like a prediction, right? Right. And it says, be one who's aware of this. In Catholic Church, it's known as Tears of the Seraphim. This, then the thunder and lightning will start. For them a tumour. Fear not. Until then, things will come out. Access what are these things and what they do. They are encrypted, strength nuclear. They come out, way tomorrow and after. For 3 years, performing, I don't know what it says, from the other aisle. And I wonder what you believe. I reply to that, I think there's some sort of setup. He says, enough of that, it doesn't help. But admit it was possible. Joins. But there's hearing it, then there's policy. Bestow part of the cure, some environmental, buried, heading up to D-Day. It's the course we have waved to reach them. All hid in the worst way. Mold the earth higher. Understand. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
First of all, any idea what the seraphim is? Because that's really intrigued me.
Tears of the Seraphim, I believe, is like a reference to Tears of Angels. I think, obviously, with the Catholic Church, and I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm sorry if this upsets anyone, but that city is, I mean, just full of opulence, and it is worth billions. They don't pay tax, and yet there's more and more darkness coming from it. and it's full of gold, and there's people starving and homeless, and I just can't imagine, from what I know of God, if you like, that he is going to be best pleased with all that nonsense. Or Jesus, or whatever, whoever comes down first would be like, are you having a giraffe? This look at the wealth of this place to represent, God is just madness. It just always upset me. I've got to be honest, it just blows my mind. So I think that's what it references to, the tears of the angels, at the things we do. I will research a bit more on the Seraphim. It's in my head. I just can't access it right now. Because you was on about the Nephilim earlier. One, it was in the same sort of... Yeah, but the Nephilim were basically the giants that were born of the fallen angels when they slept with mankind.
So what about the thunder and lightning will start then? Do you think that could be something to do with ufology?
It could be. It could be. It could refer to the spark that questions things. I mean, it could refer to the,
Reminds me of that Nostradamus prophecy: in the city of God there will be a great thunder.
A great thunder. It could be. It could be an electrical storm. It could be, the sun. I mean, there's plenty of things that we are really unprepared for. It could be something from, it could be this. I mean, there's a comet due this month. It's going to be like this. Apparently, it's massive, and it's going to be seen right across the skies. And if you look back at the comet that was around 2013, I believe, 14. Don't quote me on this because I might be getting it wrong. There was supposed to be a big symbol in the sky. Did a complete 180, went behind the sun, and just came apart. And they still, I can remember watching the sky at night because I wanted to see this comet, and there were all these people just standing around scratching their heads, going, well, we don't know what happened. We just don't know what happened there. And there was no explanation for it, and they actually kind of covered it up because there was just absolutely no explanation for it. It basically just did exactly the opposite of what they were expecting it to do, and just went behind the sun and just evaporated. So I mean, I don't know. It's it could be the reference to a symbol, something.
Well, we'll have to see. But it's worth keeping an eye out. His references in the chat. Yeah, all these messages have all been given in love, and it's like about. I think Gina mentioned about the Earth getting wiped out. I don't think it's the Earth wiping us out. I wouldn't be surprised if it's nature. If nature has a hand in this, and the Earth is being given a chance to heal, and we are seeing that. We have seen the pollution levels drop. We've seen the waters around Venice and things clear up. The Earth itself is having a breather, which can't be that bad.
Well, apparently the ozone layer over Antarctica has been healing, which I don't know how true that is, because there was reports of dolphins swimming through Venice and all that, which was absolute nonsense. The waters went clear because obviously they're not using all them gondolas and stuff, and they do create a lot of pollution in the waterways and stuff. But I mean, it's just everything. It's just it's ridiculous. I mean, if you look at some of the shopping companies, and you've all seen it, guys, if you've been shopping, you pick up a box and it says it's got something fantastic in, like spare ribs, just for example, spare ribs in it. And you open the box, and inside that box is another plastic bag, and inside that then is something that's probably about 7 inches long and about 3 inches wide, and the box is about 1.5 feet long and about 8 inches wide. And it just makes absolute no sense. It's like Christmas, right? Is a good example. Wrapping paper, right? Imagine I did the bins over Christmas, and we used to pick up. We'd average about 11 ton a day, right? And we could pick up 11 ton from one street. in Christmas, where that would normally be about 1,000 houses, and we could pick up the same weight in about 120 houses, and all that's just going back into the system to create more pollution for that one moment. And it's little things like that. Yeah, it's brilliant, and I loved opening presents, and I loved my kids opening their presents. But when you actually think about it, it's mental, because that action causes more damage than you will ever imagine. And this little thing, this is what this reflection is. It's little things like that you just take for granted. You don't think about them because you're doing it as you perceive it through love.
Yeah.
But these little things, they're all little things that we have to look at them and what they're doing. There's so many of us. They have to be a point where we go, hang about, we're going to have to change this. This is crazy. Like the food wastage just in RCT is hundreds and hundreds of tons of waste. Tons. And animals, imagine if something happened and we all found out that animals actually fear death. Genuinely fear death. And then we are chucking hundreds and hundreds. Imagine how that's perceived by spirit, for example. Or that would be perceived by beings who have reached a spiritual enlightenment. And even I've reflected on that over this quarantine. I've been thinking, wow, it is madness. It really is. You can't deny it is madness. And that's what's got to be looked at.
A good topic here. Understand the current state. What are you doing out here? Well, I as you were saying that was the next couple of lines, right? And that's basically what it just summed up what you just said. But
yeah,
God, 400 books. What did you say you heard? Because
I thought it said like God said, like
foretold in books.
Foretold in books, yeah. God foretold in books that this was going to happen.
And a radio. But this is all twisted. This is the thing. Even our responses to a point can be twisted because they are our reactions to it. They are our feelings about it by cavalier fear. And this is where, I think there's been so much emphasis over the last year about confronting fear and not giving fear the upper hand.
Look how many books have been twisted that are supposedly have the hand of God in them.
Exactly.
Like our radio responses.
Use that name and maybe do some good. Now, teach them. Lots of things. I haven't lost them. You know these. Address it from writers who are a rebellion. That treacherous has absolutely not been by the cure now. There's a use to it. I asked can the Council 12 help? They said yes, they are still here in the stars. As they say, Frederick Poole, he was one of ours. The water. Now the water, apparently, when I was researching this earlier, it's a reference to a book called The Space Merchants, of which was written in the 1950s, I believe, and it was about overconsumption in a consumeristic society. I believe there's probably if our friend on the chat is still watching, hello Loyal Makes Family, and hello to anyone else that has joined us. I know there's quite a significant amount of...
Hello guys. I never get a chance to read out the names.
Well, get your tablet working.
I had a row about it the other day.
Well, there you go.
All the people on the chat, hello from me, and I love you all, because every time you guys comment on our videos, oh wow, it just keeps us, I don't know, it fuels us, doesn't it?
It does. And any of you guys can do anything to help us get this message out there to more people, please do. What you do though, by commenting, by liking, by subscribing, by sharing, it helps us a lot. It really, really does. And it psychologically, making these videos, I don't care if 50 people see them or 5,000 people see them. It's doing me good to make them at the moment and put this message out there. Go on.
It could be, we've struggled with what they've asked us to do, which we have done. We have put ourselves out there and we have done it. And, as mad as it seems and as crazy as we sound, we've done it regardless, because there's a message of love in it, right? And everything else has failed so far. So we have seen it, we have weighed it and measured it, and we have put this message out there. But if any of you guys who are listening know how to get this message further afield, please let us know or help us in any way you can, because you guys are you're just amazing. And there might be somebody out there that knows more than us about getting this stuff out there. And if you can, we would be ever so grateful. Yeah, that was just my little...
I agree. If you can, email us at paranormalnow@outlook.com and we will talk to you. We will chat with you. By the name, okay. So, written by Robert Shack, relationship of each, a large edict outcome left for all. The meek, still feared at the back with this fight, with nothing. From them we are gonna win. I hope you understand and do. How you can give me business that's not your fault. I believe that in a sense is a personal reference, because I went on this journey to find my brother. And now my brother is partly, or maybe in full, responsible for giving these messages, which we know is putting us, maybe has challenged us and asked us to challenge others and take up a cause.
I like that bit though, the meek in the back. That we shall win. It does say, and it says it in quite a few biblical texts, the meek will inherit the earth. And we will, because we are the ones who have very little but appreciate so much. And that, in that mentality, will make the world a better place. If you hold all and you want not for riches, we can make this world, and then that kind of mentality will make this world Eden again. Do you know what I mean? And so I like that reference. When I watched it on the just now, when you just said it and I read it, it does, that kind of lifts me up, that sentiment.
And the you mentioned earlier, and I cut you off, about James McAvoy. There was some things I know you wanted to impart about that. We never got back to it, so I thought this was as good a time as any.
Well, he put a post up asking for donations for these masks for the NHS and proper PPE. And I'm a bit annoyed, right, because the government knew about this back in December, and that is coming out, and there's more and more people saying that is the case, right? They did absolutely bog all, right? They knew this was going to happen. It was already happening. Whether China were late in bringing it out or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? They knew for a fact at the end of January, as what they've let the public know, right? But there is reports that they knew about it in December. The medical board apparently knew about it in December, and they did nothing, right? And they could have prepared for this. They could have got all these supplies to our National Health Service workers. And basically McElroy was asking for donations, and I put a post, and I felt a bit bad about it, because he's trying, and he donated £275,000 of his own money, right, to this cause. But the problem is, I don't like charities, because I know they take a massive cut for themselves, right, and I hate them. Things like that shouldn't be charity, they should be priority in my eyes. And I said, well, you're asking us for the money, and most of us are in isolation or have lost our jobs, And the rest are in the same boat. They're frontline workers with no PPE. And I said, I'm not being funny, but you and the other 1% of just the UK, right, which is 2.5 million millionaires, right, if they donated £275,000 each, that's 50 trillion, right? That would completely solve everything that is an issue in this country, right now. And if we all did, which is the same equivalent of like 10 to 15 pounds each, it works out to about 350 million. And I felt bad, and I did have a bit of a backlash about it, because somebody said, "Oh, why can't you just be grateful?" And instead of being an economic, or like, what did they call me? An economic genius or something. I don't know what it said. I was just throwing maths at it because it was just made sense to me. And I was like, well, no, it's that mentality. That guy's worth 17 million quid. He gave 250. It's 12% of his gross income, which is like me if I had 180 quid to last me the rest of the month, which is the average in the UK for your working household after they paid all their bills to have about 180 quid pay money. It'd be like me giving 15 quid. And, you know, it's got to be weighed up. That's got to be something. It's got to be measured that is the case. I mean, these people spend like, you know, you're talking a couple of £100,000 on handbags and cars, you know, £500,000 on a car, and God knows what else, and like Gucci jackets for like $5,000. When is that what the world has come to? You know, this has shown what is important. And I kind of felt a bit, so I just left a statement in the end and said, wow, well, blow me. I said, there we are. If the rest of them follow suit, we'll all be laughing when we, because I couldn't be bothered to argue with it. Because I thought, if you can't see the sense in that, and yet, Mr. McRoy, Mark was out to him, and if he'd come on the telly and said, look, I've given £275,000 of my own money, could every other rich person in this country do the same, please? Because we'll have trillions of pounds to fix these problems. I would have stood next to him and gone, yes, this man gets my vote. Somebody knifed him. You know? But then you sort of torn down because, well, it's a capitalist system. I don't know if I'm wrong in thinking that, but that's what feels right to me. That's just what feels right in my heart.
I agree. And this is the thing, isn't it? It's the mindset, and this is what it goes back to, is the fact of, like, you know, it doesn't. We keep saying, oh, it's the bankers, it's the government that screwed us over, it's the rest of it, right? But the fact of the matter is, it's us, the people, that's let this happen. If we turned round and said, you know, if your neighbour, if you had let's say you've got a family living next door to you, and you've got a stay-at-home mum with maybe 2 kids and a husband that's working. That husband falls ill, and they can't pay the mortgage for 3 months, right? And they lose their house, and people just sit there and watch their neighbour's house get repossessed, like, and the neighbour's just out on the street and they go, terrible, isn't it? And then they can. Hang on a sec. Let me finish. Yeah. And they could be in that position a few months or years down the line. We're in a position now where the economy is literally on hold. Banks, businesses, everyone's losing money. Right? It is like restarting this economy after this is going to be like trying to fucking bump start a car with a dead battery and no charger. Right? And you might find that people end up if this goes on for an extended period of time, people are going to be risking losing their houses en masse, right? And I was shown this by Spirit. And maybe that's what it takes for people to come together and go, well, hang on, rather than like a few years, that could be me next week. I tell you what, if we all stand outside these people's houses and we tell these bankers and whatever, no, you are not having this house, you are not having our wealth, you have enough, perhaps the system would need to change if we all stood up together.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But you think of the system of buying a house. You're putting yourself in a 25-year debt cycle.
Yeah.
Right? When these people just buy their houses cash, they just pay for them. Like they don't just buy one. I mean, if you look at you look at East London and you look at places in London, they buy £1 million houses for tax breaks, and they just board them up.
Yeah.
And then you've got things like the tower. What's it called? The tower that just Grenfell Tower. Then people, there's still hundreds of people were still homeless and even missing. And it's just because our lives are so chaotic, it's easy to have it slip out of your mind. And this is the problem. And I think I think personally, right, whether you believe in a God or not, I obviously do, as I've stated on the show. I believe that he's had an absolute tipful of seeing, I mean really seeing, the neglect in this world. I mean, like, he sees it for what it is, and he sees the mindset of us.
I'll show it in future sessions, but my brother said the same thing. You don't have to. Well, look at that message we had when I was down yours. It's the puzzle book of life, but you don't have to watch it. We do. They, from their side of life, they have to look at all this and see it.
Yes. Remember we had this conversation about angels, and you were saying about the hierarchy, and you didn't like it. You remember we had this conversation, you didn't like it. I said, imagine like that concept of someone that will love you and hope for you and pray and want you to be better than you are, regardless of the stuff you've done. That's a very hard concept for a human being to take into its mindset. But that's the duty of these beings. That is that's their sole purpose, is to be that kind of being. And it's a very difficult thing to get your mind around. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing. It's going to be a hard thing for people to grasp without looking at, the cruelty in the world. But somebody has to, and somebody has to say, "Oh, there's too much of this. There's too much." And I think that's what this is. I think this is what it is.
Well, it says, give Mrs. McKinley the setup, controlling hand, but is not here now. I hope in these 100 years, the profits they do as of crime, with police none the wiser, alive they are in uniform, so you never notice, but at least not a war, one that's in folly but ruled by incentive. A thief takes forever. We will show the way. We are the source kin. Well, I think it says you will show the way, but I felt a bit humbled by that. Heal the world through the passing storm. We will prevail. The only thing I'm going to say about that is, this control can't hold now. And we haven't come to terms with that yet. And I've been worried for the last few days about where this is all going, and to the point of just really finding it difficult to function. But there's equal opportunity for it to go the other way. We could go. I think we are now at a point where there's enough of us questioning, going, "Anga banga, there's something wrong here." And it might not be that there's something wrong with the coronavirus. Perhaps what we are sensing is everyone else waking up to, like, they'll start to believe. With any awakening, my friend, it starts with that question. There's something's not right here.
Yeah.
For us, it was seeing things that no one else could see and having to figure out what those things were. For other people, it's seeing things that's wrong with the political system, seeing what's wrong with the crime system, the policing system, the money system, the environmental, how we're treating the environment, the planet, aliens. There are so many crisis points that we each individually can open this door. But it's only got to start. This, I think, could tip the scales. With enough people going, hang banger, there's something wrong here. I'm going to put it over to final thoughts, my friend, and I'm just going to read out some stuff from the chat. But is there anything else you want to say?
No, I think I've said my piece on this subject, and I just, guys, if go and research some of the stuff you see in our videos, go and look at it yourself and find out for yourselves. Don't just take our word for it. Now, I never like anyone to just take my word for it, because we do get things, some of the details wrong. But just, look at it. Have a good sit back and think about every bit of society that we just sort of like, we just bypass because it doesn't affect us directly. And you will see that there is some really damning stuff going on. And it can be changed. And if there's enough of us, we can change it.
On that note, my computer just went bloom. On that note, my friend, guys, thank you for watching. You've been listening to the Now Debate. We'll see you tomorrow for a video by Richard. And this responses will go up onto a video as well. And yeah, more videos coming, and we'll see you either.
The person who asked about the CE5, I would really like some information on CE5 if you've got any, because obviously you said you've been through it. Could you please give us some information? Because I want to take a look at it. And if there's any other questions, let us know, and we'll see if we can come up with the answers.
Are we doing a Sunday service or a Sunday live stream?
We might do.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, see how it goes. If we do, we'll let you know, guys. Keep an eye out for it on the channel.
Well, we'll definitely be here for next week for the Now Debate, and there'll be videos coming out in between. Guys, if you feel you can help in getting this information out, email address is paranormalnow@outlook.com, and we'll see you soon for another video. Take care.
Love and light, guys.
Love and
see you
light.
soon. Any stuff in the chat, Chazzy? Oh, it's the talk.